Hello and welcome back, everybody, and thank you for joining us this Sunday midday Haunted Magazine session. So I'm going to welcome Paul Stevenson and Andy to the Festival of the Unexplained studio. I say studio in loose terms because obviously we're not in a studio, are we?
Yeah.
I'm in the kitchen.
I was going to say, what you're cooking, Paul?
that's my homeschool fridge. I'm homeschooling. I'm sure we all are. So
yeah,
you know. Hey Jolene, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Very well.
Busy with the magazine?
Yeah, we're starting to put together the next issue. It's been 2.5 months since the last one, and so we should have it out early Feb at the latest. Same as usual. Hopefully, I mean, we love the magazine. We're biased, but usual paranormal stuff. Great writers, great stories, great features, and it's just joy to work with Andy and do it. So it's a win-win situation for everybody.
And it's great.
Yeah, the pleasure's all yours.
Yeah, because you both help us out quite a lot as well. And Andy, you know, I'm forever messaging Andy saying, please, can you help me? And he's ever so good. So thank you so much, Andy, for that as well, because without you, sometimes I'd be a bit lost. And, you know, I'm all right at the video editing. I'm kind of getting there slowly, but sometimes I just think Andy probably knock this up in a couple of minutes. So thank you so much. But Haunted Magazine, how long ago did you start?
Oh, crikey. Oh, the first issue came out in 2009, but the idea probably started back in the 2005-06. I had an idea. I mean, Most Haunted was on television, and at that time, 3rd, 4th, 5th series, it was good. It was good. Let's be honest. It was the show that we all loved. It was a show that it was just every Thursday. Was it Thursday? Was it Thursdays on Living TV? We all watched, and I thought, you know, they've brought an element of entertainment to it, a bit of fun to it, and I thought,
at the time,
yeah, at the time, yeah, and I thought a magazine would sit well with this. But it took 3 years of planning and finance to sort out. So by that time, Most Haunted had probably gone down the woo. But I thought, let's carry on with it. And it came out in 2009, and it's 12 years now. And we've gone from print to digital only, to digital and print. So it's gone like full circle. Andy's been a massive help, a massive part of Haunted for what, since the last issue of the first set of print, and he was the guy who decided to go digital. He sort of like moved it forward onto the digital platform to keep the brand going. So it's been a roller coaster. We've loved it. I've loved every minute of it, and I'm sure Andy has. There's been times when we've gone to print the day before, we've not had a cover. It's all exciting. Each year, so it's all exciting, and the magazine. Sorry, Andy. The magazine's developed.
Go. I think as
the magazine's developed. The writers have developed. I mean, I'll show you. Other day, I was searching through stuff, and I found 40 in Times, which is a great magazine, and I found the issue number 40 and issue number 44. And this is it's A5 size. So that just shows how 40 in Times has developed over so many years. I mean, it's like, you know, it's like this. I mean, this is a great magazine, 40 in Times. So it just shows that there's room for development, there's room to improve, and there's room to survive as long as we possibly can.
Are you going to come out with a handbag-sized magazine at any point then?
Well, you know what? I've always thought about a pocket paranormal magazine. You know, because I do like A5. I mean, Andy's saying no, though. He's a designer. He gets the final say on that. But I love this, so I'll keep pushing him.
Yeah,
No.
I can see why Andy says no.
Well, to be fair, when we first started doing the digital one, which was more in an attempt to go to Kindle and the iPads and all that kind of stuff, A5 was pretty much the size of the screen anyway. So when we were designing it, to be able to achieve what we're achieving now, you'd really need to be looking at probably a 200-page magazine each time because of the amount of print you would need to spread over those pages. I think it would start to become more like Reader's Digest rather than Haunted Magazine, and I think that would be quite a different experience. And it's certainly not an experience I want to particularly design. I mean, I think at the moment. Sorry?
No, I was saying, I think when we first started digital, 168 pages, I think one magazine wasn't it?
Yeah, and it is too much. I don't think it works for what we do, and I think, well, to be honest with you, I think we've got the balance right now. I think having this 84 pages and what we're doing, well, certainly over the last couple of issues, to have something special in the extra pages that we've got, I think that's the way forward. And I think we're obviously testing with the next one. We've got some UFO stuff. We've got we did introduce UFO Today a while back in PDF format, which absolutely loved it, but it just proved to be quite a tricky format. Now, whether or not that's just because people didn't like the digital approach to it at the time, I don't know. But to see some of that back in print, we will see how it goes. And it may be something to develop as a separate entity in its own right. I mean, that's hopefully where we're looking towards in the future. I mean, there's a lot of interesting stuff going on there. There's a lot of disclosure that's happening again. There's a lot of personalities out there that are proving contentious and certainly worth investigation. So I think I'm very interested to see some audience feedback on what we're doing with this next edition, because I think it's very different. And it's the kind of thing that really is exciting from my point of view to design.
Yeah, and I think, UFOs at the moment, we're talking an awful lot about them, and the disclosure that, Rendlesham Forest, they've just released all of their voice tapes, haven't they? And I think, it just kind of puts you back out there as well, doesn't it? So you're not you do an awful lot with the paranormal, but you don't usually see an awful lot about the UFO. So I think it's great that you're kind of moving with the times.
I think there's such a proliferation of what is paranormal. And I certainly think Rendlesham's one of the more challenging topics to talk about. I mean, at one point they're trying to tell you that it's fake, another it's an exercise and all this kind of stuff. And will we ever get to the bottom of it? Probably not, in all honesty. But the fact is, it's interesting to explore, and it's certainly interesting to get the personalities that are involved in it into the magazine.
Yeah, and I think obviously with anything that's paranormal, we talk about these personal experiences, don't we? And who are we to judge people's personal experiences?
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean everybody has a personal journey.
Yeah, definitely.
Paul's itching to.
I'm slipping between there. Sorry. No, I was saying to what Andy was saying. It was like Rendlesham was 40 years last year. December 1980. So as a kid, it was something that obviously there was no 24/7 rolling TV then. Imagine if there was Rendlesham happened now, it'd be over the news, left, right, and centre, that kind of story. But because it was in the papers and magazines like 14 Times and that kind of magazine, you only caught glimpses of it. So now you've got a research to find out more stuff about it. And there are things coming out, like you said earlier, like, is it fake? Is it real? Well, that kind of thing, with a line about things. And I think we cover something in the next issue, not necessarily about Rendlesham, but about the subject of fakery in the UFO world.
Yeah, because Paul Sinclair's written a number of books, hasn't he, as well, regarding the UFOs, and he's based on the east coast of Yorkshire. And Claire Barron talked about him yesterday. She's got quite a lot of his books, and I'd heard about somebody who was researching all of the UFOs over in the Hull region, and it turns out that this is that gentleman. So I'm going to have to start reading a few of his books, I think, because some of the things that he's described in his books, there are like subterranean underwater caverns and things like that, which, you know, the military obviously will have something of some sort in caves and what have you that none of us are ever going to know about because they're top secret. But, you know, when people are actually seeing these things and actually documenting them, and, you know, who's to say that, you know, they're not on any sort of hallucinogenic substances or whatever. But, you know, if these people are saying that these things are real and, you know, the evidence states that it's real, you know, who are we to question that?
Yeah, I mean, you can go back into some of the historic cases, can't you? Like Betty and Barney Hill in the US, one of the most famous ones. Imagine if that scenario happened now and they just whopped out the camera phone and started taking pictures of it. I mean, but we're in a lot different position now. And I think there's a lot more. Unfortunately, you've got the side of things where this very medium that we're talking on today can be used to fake this evidence, but also it can be used to capture some really quite compelling information. And when also you're now validated by some of the footage from the US military, Navy, and that kind of thing of stuff that even they're admitting that they don't know what the hell it is, then this is a subject that's going to keep on going until we have the kind of answers that we need. I mean, there's also compelling evidence that a lot of this stuff is happening right here rather than it coming from outer space, as it were. I mean, the sort of familiar sort of 1950s variant of what flying saucers are, which is it's even the wrong term anyway from when it started out. I think you are just in a very different world now. And I think because there's so many armchair enthusiasts that have scoured the internet, have got some of the terrific theories, I think we will find out something more over the next few years. And that's got to be one of the most exciting times to be.
Yeah, and I think it's along with everything in the paranormal though as well, isn't it? You know, we come under this umbrella of, you know, the urban legends. We come under the umbrella of UFOs, every cryptid, you know, Sasquatch, all the sort of elements that kind of all roll into one. It's kind of, you know, how do you put together a magazine once you've got all of that context to try and, you know, go through?
I think we're quite lucky because we get lots of features now from many writers on different subjects, and the subjects kind of blow us away. Some that we didn't think would fit in haunted, but as you said, the criteria, sort of the branches, there's so many branches of the paranormal now, it's unreal. They've always been there, but they've kind of been hiding behind something, and it's always been ghosts, spirits, spooks. But now other ones are coming to the fore and are just as entertaining to read, powerful to read, quite scary to read as well, when you read into it. So I think the writers sort of get the magazine, they want to put their theories and their stories out. We love it. I mean, we've all been locked down for so many months that we've not been ghosted since March last year. So I've been researching it, and you mentioned UFOs. When you love ghosts and spooks and spirits, as I do, and the old ghosty, spooky side of the paranormal, you tend to think UFOs are just a small little pocket away in the corner. But when you research it, like you said, it's massive. The books are out there. The books that are out there are so, you know, there's loads of books and everything. And you're right, Julian. And it's so yeah, I think the magazine encompasses all. We do try and feature as many parts of the paranormal as possible. We always do haunted houses, historic locations, but we have put, Helly has been in it, you know, with Dana and Greg and everything, and we've done cryptozoology. We'll always continue to try and break our boundaries and do other stuff.
And it's good that you do that, because that kind of means that the magazine evolves with you though as well, doesn't it? Yeah,
I think we've got fairies as well in the next issue, haven't we, Andy?
Yeah, absolutely.
You see, that's another thing. You know, we've had so many great topics to talk about over this weekend. And, you know, Claire Barron mentioned the Fae. And I keep mentioning this because it has absolutely blown me away. And it's something that I've never really kind of looked into, because I think fairies are, you know, I'm not 5 years old anymore. But then when you look into it and you actually see that these aren't actually the Tinkerbell fairies that we've got, they're actually sinister beings. And we actually asked the question yesterday, could they be, you know, the extraterrestrials from another planet, just mimicking these, you know, fairies or whatever they are, and causing mayhem, because that's what they do.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're extraterrestrial. I think they are just an older philosophy here, and I think sometimes it's we are the conduit of everything that goes on. So that could be all sorts of paranormal activity, telekinesis, and that kind of thing. But I also believe that there's that potential in certain parts where there is a different kind of realm that's potentially there. I mean, I used it in the novel that I wrote. There's fairies in there, and not all are of good intent. In the second story, it'll tell you why. But I firmly believe there's other things here, and just because we can't see them or see the manifestation of them doesn't mean that they're not there. And I think that's the challenge.
Yeah, and you've written quite a lot, haven't you, Andy, recently? And I noticed the other day that you've done a piece of music as well. Yeah,
I've been composing pretty much since the age of 13, and I've got quite a bit of material out and about in places like Bandcamp and iMusic and all that side of things. It's very much a passion. And it's something that I'm going to continue to do. I've got a few people from all around the world that message me and keep chasing me up on when's the next material going to be out. It's just something that I absolutely love, and it goes hand in hand with the stuff that I've written and the magazine work. It is good, because I listened to it and I was like, Andy's done this. This is amazing. So it's brilliant.
I think before lockdown, we had talked about bringing it on vinyl, haven't we, Andy? Bringing out your music on vinyl.
Yeah.
We had talked about it. It's not just something that's done like 3 or 4 years ago. This is 30 or 35 years of Andy enjoying music, and it is good. I mean, anybody who thinks, it's Andy, it's Andy, but you listen to it, it's bloody brilliant, and it's so talented to be able to do something like that. I'd take my hat off to him if I was wearing a hat, but I'm not.
I mean, Tintagel, I mean, it's such a magical location. The whole way this latest single came about, I wasn't really intended for release. It was a different version of something that I'd already released. But there was another podcast, We Share These Streets, which is local to me. The guy that does it is from the same town. And he asked me if we'd got some kind of Victory-esque type music that he wanted to fit in with the podcast that we're doing. And I knew that I'd got this version of Tintagel. It's different orchestration. It's clearly intended more for an orchestral setting. And so I just tweaked it, and I thought, you know what, this is good enough to get out there. So I put it out as well. I made it just so it goes on Bandcamp. Bandcamp's a great site for any musician that wants to get their work out there, because they do pay their artists the royalties pretty much immediately, compared to the streaming sites where you need to get a lot of views before you actually get anything back from them. And it's not that this is about making money, it's just that if you're wanting to get your stuff out there, I think it's the immediacy of Bandcamp. You immediately know that these people are interested in what you're doing, and actually they engage an awful lot more than the bigger sites as well. So I just thought that, time's right, and I know that piece of music is something very special to me. The location being all of its links to King Arthur and all that kind of stuff, it is just fantastic. And those experiences of being down in the bay and also on the top at the statue of Gallos, which is on the front cover, it's just such a special place, and I'd urge anybody to go there. Just do it with a pair of headphones and My Score on it.
Yeah, it is haunting, and it's very, I have listened to it because I thought, what is this? And when I did, I was like blown away by it. It's just it is magical. It's a magical piece of music that you've written. And you are very creative though, aren't you? Because you do all of the graphics, and, you do quite a lot of marketing for the Haunted magazine as well. And, how do you find that you work well with Paul in that sort of sense? Do you kind of, obviously, like Karen and I, we're very good. I know what she wants and she knows what I want. And is it the same sort of relationship that you guys have?
We are completely yin and yang. Well, I mean, I'm very uptight. Paul's very laid back, and I think between the two of it really works. I mean, that when we did the book launch, that was a prime example of two very different kind of personalities on there. But I think, I mean, ultimately, what starts the magazine is a series of Word documents and maybe a few pictures, and that's it. And then from that, it's my job really to try and make that into a very sort of coherent and interesting magazine that's not at the expense of the words that we have from the authors who do such a fantastic job, but it's to actually enhance that and to make you want to read that article and get involved in that article, to almost give its own world to it. And I think that's really what I like and enjoy doing. And I think that comes across in a lot of the issues. I think, especially the last few, we seem to just really kind of got a groove, and it's just kind of worked. And some of the stuff that's coming through, I'm wanting to read about it before I'm even designing it, which is a great sign, because that means that I know where my cues are. And then you'll do this immaculate design. It'll be, it'll be finished, it'll be ready to go, and then Paul will come in and he'll want to change the title, and he'll want to change a few bits and bobs around, and then you just think, here we go again. But usually he does it for the right reasons. 90% of the time it's about getting that balance right, and sometimes it can be too design centric, and we need to just change down a tack here and there.
Yeah, Andy sees it from sorry, Jenny. Andy sees it from his design's perspective when he shows me the finished piece, and 9 out of 10 times it's brilliant, but sometimes there's something a bit missing, and that simple word, that simple headline, a simple movement of something could work. So yeah, when Andy first started working with the magazine, he used to leave him notes. I would recommend this, I would recommend that. Now, like I say, I just send him the Word document and he just does it, and it's perfect. Little few tweaks every now and then, never always help. But yeah, I mean, Andy's so talented. It's very, very annoying sometimes how talented he actually is. But we're best mates, and we get on really well. We love doing what we do, and the magazine is what it is because Andy's Andy and I'm me, I think.
And it's very rare that we actually, lock horns about anything. There's the occasional thing where I don't agree with the title because I think it might be a tad inappropriate to what's the content of the article.
Too cheesy.
It can be too cheesy, or it can just be off.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes it's just, no, you can't say that. It's
1970s humour.
Spontaneous human combustion, burn, baby, burn. No, it's not the way to do it.
So is the magazine governed? Because obviously, do you have to conform to any sort of red tape through media or anything like that? Like you've just said, spontaneous combustion, burn, baby, burn. That's, that is tongue in cheek. And some people would laugh at that. But yeah, is there a governing body out there who kind of looks at it? Because TV has Ofcom and what have you, and the telephone systems as well. But do you have anything?
I think I've looked into this, and I think there are guidelines that you have to adhere to. I think with spontaneous combustion, it's so minor. And burn, baby, burn would have worked, but we changed it in the end. But and there are regulations. It's more about design, images, and copyright and credits. They need to be sort of like paramount, and it's all right taking a picture off of somebody, but if you don't credit it, it's not fair. If Andy doesn't get many pictures from the writers, they're too busy writing. So we have to scour free images and people's drawings, and then we contact them and ask if we can use them, and we always credit them. And I think copyright and credits are bang important in the end bit of the magazine, which we do, and we do credit them. If we miss something out, we apologise and put it in the next issue. But in terms of guidelines, we have one writer, Nikki Allen, who swears. He says the F word every issue. So we do we star it, Andy, or do we put dash? I can't remember. Or do we let it play?
I think if it's in a title, we'll put
Yes.
a couple of asterisks. If it's actually part of the piece, I don't really see the point.
Because,
I mean, we're not targeting this to primary school children.
no.
At the end of the day, you've generally got a PayPal account. Well, the PayPal account you'll have from the age of 18 anyway, because it's linked to a debit card or bank details.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we kind of have a broad assumption that our readership and the readership base is going to be 15 onwards. I mean, there's going to be a few teen readers, but it's largely going to be from that kind of age group onwards.
If you've never swore on a ghost hunt, then there's something completely wrong. So, you know, to be honest, you know.
I think nowadays, though, they swear, and sometimes some of the things that comes out of their mouth, I'm like, whoa. So, yeah, a couple of swear words don't really hurt, do they? But do you encourage a lot of people to write into you with their articles, and do you read every single one of them?
Yes, we encourage. No, I don't read it all of it at the same time. Some I put away in a file that I'll look back in 3 months' time and think, my God, that's really good. And then say, apologise, not getting in touch, yada yada. But yeah, we encourage. We get people writing for, oh, I'm a first-time writer. You're not going to consider me. Here's my story, and it's like, wow, this is really good. One woman, Anne Morris, it's a story about her journey from going to ghost hunting groups, finding a passion for it, starting her own group, then discovering that she's a medium and seeing things and everything. So it's her story from like just being a fan to being out there and her own team and being the medium of that team. So everyone's got a story. Everybody, in my opinion, sometimes more than one. But yeah, we consider anything. We've had teenage writing for us. We've had pensioners writing for us, published authors, unpublished authors, anybody, even Jason from Haunted Live. So that just shows you how desperate we are sometimes, you know. So, you know.
But I think it's great that, you know, first time writers, because, you know, you do encourage that, because, you know, sometimes there's magazines out there who don't allow them to have an outlet, and especially for, you know, the paranormal umbrella, so to speak. And it is good for people to have a little bit of confidence in themselves when they have those articles published. I
agree, totally agree. I mean, one person I think has gone on to write a few books. Jack Strange, who was a guy, a 13, 14-year-old guy in Wales, Jack and Laura, who did ghost hunting, teenage ghost hunting back in the original version of the magazine. And they wrote, and it's really good. And I think Jack's a published author now. So I'd like to think that we had a bit of, you know, a role in that. So yeah, I mean, the paranormal, it's weird because, I mean, Andy's wrote this great story, and obviously that's fiction and everything. But the paranormal, it's a mixture of fact and fiction. Yeah. No one knows whether it's true or not. And we're not going to, if somebody sees a ghost and somebody says they saw it on a ghost hunt, we're not going to say, no, you didn't. We don't play like that. You know, someone sends a picture into a company, a feature, and Andy thinks it can go in, it goes in. We're not judge and jury. No one should be judge and jury, in our opinion. The magazine is an entertainment ride through the paranormal. Yeah,
and it's again, it goes back to personal experiences, and, you know, like we say, we can't judge people's personal experiences, and if, you know, they've taken the time out to write about their experience, then you know, it takes an awful lot for somebody to do that, doesn't it? Because, you know, some people out there don't have the confidence to write about them.
Yeah, because they fear being ridiculed or they fear being laughed at. But I know social media has a few bad points, but on the whole, I applaud social media for making people have a voice, giving people a voice to say things now. If they say it in a respectful way, then I'm all for it. I mean, you go back about personal stories. Penny writes history. So Penny, one of our writers and a good friend, she approaches the paranormal not from personal stories, main story or history about an event or about a subject, and to me they're just as good. So that balances the magazine up.
And it's good though, because obviously Penny's a personal friend of mine as well, and you know, she has a podcast as well, doesn't she? So, you know, she kind of ties everything all together. And she's an accomplished author as well. So, you know, everything just ties in for her. And I know she's, you know, she puts so much heart and soul into everything as well. And it comes across in the reading.
I think so. And I think because I think social media has helped that a lot. We wouldn't know people like yourself and Karen and Penny and people like that unless because of Facebook and because of Twitter. You know, the paranormal world would still be probably quite small if there was none of this free marketing. I mean, 10, 11 years ago, there was probably 10 companies who did ghost hunts. Now there's probably over 500. And not at the minute, but there was last year, but it's just an explosion, and it's good. I love it. I love the way it's going. I love the entertainment side of it. I love the research side of it. I love all aspects of it. There's not a part of it I don't really enjoy, and if I don't enjoy that, I don't watch it or read it.
So you guys also a part of Haunted Live, aren't you, as well? So you go out and you investigate. So you're not just Haunted Magazine, but you're Haunted Live as well. So talk me through some of your experiences on Haunted Live.
Go on, and
yeah, I mean, we basically do. We've done a few shows that we broadcast on Facebook exclusively, and that is the four of us. In whatever location we choose to go to. But I think the public events are the ones that I really like the most at the moment. And I'm really, really desperately missing that kind of sort of contact and other people around you when you kind of go exploring. I mean, we have the opportunity of doing Bosworth Hall, and I was writing something for another book that Penny's doing, curiously, the other day. And I just sitting there writing about it, and you think these experiences, you know, they're wild, and only four of us experienced what happened on that particular occasion, and that's why you go out and do it. I mean, there's stuff that happens that you can't account for, and no rational sort of evidence gathering can necessarily pick up some of that. When I started on before even going out and exploring these things, I was definitely one foot firmly encamped on the skeptical side of things. Fascinated, wanted to believe, didn't believe anything was there. And then something will happen that will change that entire foundation to what you're doing. And then all of a sudden you start getting into this very different flow as to what an investigation is and what you expect from an investigation. And I mean, for me, the big changing point, I would say, is still East Drive.
Yeah.
Just seeing something in that way, it changed my entire way of thinking. And I've gone on to see other things as well that I can't necessarily rationally explain.
What was it at 30 East Drive that you saw? It was.
I mean, this is a split-second thing. I mean, there was something that happened when I first got there, but the actual thing that really stays with me still to this very day is that we went to the bottom of the stairs. There's a mirror at the bottom of the stairs, and as we came into that area, I saw at the top of the stairs there was a little girl that totally out of time, out of place. It's just quite ashen sort of figured, and this was a split second of just looking there. I looked up the stairs, there was nothing there. I looked back in the mirror, gone completely. But I can give you an entire account. I mean, this was quite almost Victorian or Edwardian dress. Didn't fit to the location because the location doesn't sit at that time point. And it was even when you watch it back, because we were fortunately recording, there's nothing in the mirror when we go past it. I look, there she is. I look up, she's not there. I look back, she's not there. And I don't feel scared or the usual things that you would expect by seeing an apparition, but she was just there, and she was. I could see the faces as clear as I could see my granddaughter. It's just a bizarre experience, but something that stays with me. I mean, later on the investigation, Jason saw fingers around the top of the stairs as well, And then obviously later on in the investigation, we had all the stuff with all the K2s going off and the well and all that kind of stuff. It was bonkers, but brilliant, because that was my starting point of opening up the way in which I think towards the paranormal.
Mm-hmm. And would you say you were open previously to obviously being on board with Haunted Magazine and, you know, Haunted Live?
Yeah, I mean, it was a case of wanting to perhaps believe, but not believing. Mm-hmm. Always assuming that it wasn't necessarily something that was there. It was usually explainable. Mm-hmm. But in this particular instance, no, I can't explain why I saw what I did, but I did, and I know what I saw, and from that point onwards, things are different. I think probably there's an element of faith that starts opening up, not necessarily a religious faith, but faith that there is something else that's potentially there, so you can start opening up a little bit to what's there, and then maybe start interacting with it a little better.
Yeah. And Paul, what's your most memorable experience?
Okay, before that, can I just say, when you're with four guys who you trust, I mean, trust is a big thing in the paranormal world and everything. And when you're with four guys that you trust impeccably, and something like what happens to Andy happens, you know, even though you don't see it, you do genuinely believe that Andy saw it. You know, whether it was, like I said, an hallucination or what, you just don't know. But you know, Andy and Jay are probably the two out of the four that have probably seen more and witnessed more. Myself and Simon have heard things. I have seen a creature. I was at the Haunted Antique Centre in Hinckley, and I was stood up, and there'd been some creatures released by accident apparently, and I didn't know that at the time, but I saw something. Not like a worm, but a bit like a salamander type, lizard type thing, and really go fast between my legs and shoot off to another room. And I was like, I've just seen, I'm not going mad, but I've just seen this thing. And then they explained that they'd released some creatures by accident out of a vial or something. So it wasn't that the story was in my head. I'd seen it before I knew about it. So, but I think we're all on a journey. Everyone's on a journey, whether you're part of a team or not, a personal journey. I've witnessed things like, I mean, I go back to the table at Antique Centre with Barry Guy. I'm still amazed. I watch it probably once every 3 or 4 weeks, and the footage, and I just try and work it out, Joe, and I can't work it out.
Is that in the back room? You know, what used to be the old seance room?
The seance room, and it's a heavy table. Yeah. And for someone to push that, it's and to go the way it go would be quite a feat. And we were with Barry and us. We asked the table to move, and it didn't move. We asked it again, and the energy was building, and it moved. It moved on camera, and we all were like, "Whoa!" And Barry was like, "Whoa!" And it's like, I mean, how could that move? And again, with people you trust. So, you know, no one was near it. Andy was next to me. Jay was next to Andy. Si, James and Barry were sat down, hands on the table and everything. And it's like, it's just one of these things that blow you away. You can't explain. I still think about it to this day. It's nearly 2 years now. And I think when those things happen, it blows my mind. I'll be totally honest.
It is good though when you get those experiences of things moving, because I did an investigation at Revesby Abbey, and it was before they'd started to renovate the main areas, because you could see like holes in the roof and things. But we were in the communal kitchen area, and I was sat on a pew, and there was I think there was about 3 of us in there. There was myself and a married couple, and we were nowhere near a chair, and it was pitch black, and we didn't have any night vision, and we just sat there calling out, and I just said, "Can you move that chair, please?" And literally, you listen to this chair just fly across the floor, and literally, I switched my torch on really quickly, and I looked at the side of me. The couple was still sat there. She was literally clinging on for dear life to her husband. And I just looked, and I was like, why didn't I have my camera on? Why didn't I video that? But it moved at least a good 6-7 feet.
Well, this is, I mean, we laugh about it, but this is what we want. This is what we want. This is what we want to happen. And whether it's filmed or not, it still happened. I know what you're saying about filming it, but you know what? If it was filmed, it'd be poo-poo probably.
Yeah.
But it happened, and it's brilliant that these things happen. I love it when they happen. I mean, I love it when for 3 hours nothing happens. I just love the vibe, the atmosphere. You know, the words that come through on Alice or EVP. They're just something. I think ghost hunting or paranormal investigating, it's something that you just can't do half-hearted. You've got to be fully invested into it. You know what I mean? So, well, no, you're right. These things are just, send shivers down my spine, but I love it when they happen.
Well, it's funny because you mentioned the Haunted Antiques Museum, like Paranormal Research Centre, and I went there with Claire Barrand and another lady, and we were sat around that same table. And I could feel what I can only sense is a black energy, and it was just running around the table constantly. And then all of a sudden we were just asking, and we heard the EVPs, and it said it hated women basically. And then all of a sudden I said, well, if you want us to leave, you need to do something. And at that moment there was a dresser near to the back of the mirror, and it started to shake violently. And the three of us were sat down at the table. Nobody was anywhere near it, and it was just shaking violently. And I just went, you need to do bigger, you need to do better than that to get rid of us.
There is a dark energy in that sound room. I don't think I think it's got darker and darker as the years have gone by, Andy, yeah?
Yeah.
Definitely.
But it was great fun. It was, you know, even though we scare ourselves silly sometimes, you know, that's what you strive for, don't you?
It is. And, you know, it's people say, oh, I'm never scared ghost hunting. You should be, because your normal emotions are not to do what we do. You know, you don't go ghost hunting, you know, it's something that you do, and it's a hobby, becomes a passion, can become a career and everything. And it's not, you know, you're taking yourself out the norm, into the paranormal. So if you're not scared, there is something, if your heckles aren't up, if you're not watching everywhere, you know, you're not normal. You are. Your emotions should be different, and I love it. I say honestly, I used to be more scared. I'm more intrigued now. I used to jump more than the guys, but I've learned now that there's nothing that should really hurt me or scare me. But I'm learning to be more intrigued and more interested and more approachable. I talk about mediums like yourself, Joe. We were at the Haunted Antique Centre again, and there was 3 mediums there. And this is where I wish I was a medium. They all described the same person and a little girl. And not one of them, but all 3 of them described, and they all took turns to say what she's wearing. And Andy was there. They were all wearing the same. They all described that we were wearing the same. And I'm thinking to myself, I wish I could see this girl. I wish I could just witness what they were witnessing. Do you know what I mean?
It's funny you say that though, because I saw her and she was running around the table. Because when we went, there was like a table in the center of the room, which was the main room, which I think they've changed into the dolls room now. And it had this small little font on there with, you know, the old style Victorian where they used to pour the water in to wash your face in the morning. Mm-hmm. And literally Claire was stood at the side of me, and we talked about this yesterday again. And I literally just stood there and I was like, she's here. And I watched, and the only way I can describe it was like a piece of water, and it was like fish scales, and it was moving like this. And I never forget, Claire makes me laugh about everything. And I was just watching it, and I was like, and Claire just looked at me and went, what have you seen? And I just went, did you not see that? And she was like, no. And literally you could see her forming in some sort of liquid. It was unbelievable. But yeah, there's so much at the Antiques Museum. There is so much there, and it's probably one of my favorite places to go. But let's talk about Bosworth, because, you know, Festival of the Unexplained are heading to Bosworth in September of this year. Now, tell me about some of the hauntings that go on there.
You go, Andy. I've spoken too much. My lips are chapped.
There's all sorts. I mean, it depends on the locations that you actually choose to go to in there. But we've had all sorts of things happen from the moment of walking in there. I mean, because the place is steeped in so much history, you've got the doors from Newgate Prison that are in there, and you've got rooms and stories that perhaps we've kind of unraveled a little bit as it's gone along. I mean, the very first investigation in there was wild. I mean, we were in the sort of one of the rooms upstairs. It's quite a large room, and people were just taking their camera phones out, taking a picture. And as the flash was going off, the amount of, I mean, it must have been quite a sort of dense sort of air at the time, because it was summer when we started. Just some of the orb activity that was in there was just off the scale. We've had the REM pod doing Morse code in there. We've had names, established names to the location coming through on Alice quite frequently. We've had apps that have done all sorts of crazy stuff. I mean, we've had Kieran there as a guest, Kieran O'Keefe, and that was quite a special night, to be fair. It was a night where we were experimenting quite a lot, and some of the stuff that came out on an app that he had was interesting. I won't use the terminology that was used on the night, because it's probably a family watching at the moment. But it was quite fruity. The whole location, though, I mean, there's rooms 216 and 217 for a lot of people. Nothing happens there. For me personally, 216 was very strange. On one particular occasion, we've had artifacts move in. We've had obviously the stuff about the bridal suite and that kind of thing. I don't want to go through too much of the history there, because you're going to be doing it. But there's inside and outside is just amazing.
I think also you're in an area, 3 or 4, 5 square mile area of an amazing location in the England, with the Bosworth battlefield, all the history of that. And the drive to Bosworth is Market Bosworth is just amazing. You enter this walled village, and then you see the hall as it approaches, and it's just an amazing place. And because it's a hotel, we also live in breathing hotel, and because it's not been travelaged or not been modernized, the features are still there. The ornate staircase, the statues, the pictures from 400, 300 years old are still there. Although the rooms are conference suites and marketing suites, the ornate features are just everywhere in the place to see, and it's a joy to visit. And I quite love the fact that it's a living, breathing hotel. A lot of locations are empty and stood for days with nothing happening, and you go in and try and get something happening. We've got a location where we go to and visit, where, aside from where we are, we get pretty much free reign of where to go at times. There's people who've come here to stop, unaware of a ghost hunt happening at all. And I just love that combination of life versus afterlife, so to speak. But Andy's right. We've had things happen that we can't explain. Experiment night was a great night. I mean, have you been yet to the place, Joe? Oh, you will love it. You'll pick up so.
This is why I'm trying to say, like, don't tell me too much, because I don't know any history or anything like that. And obviously, doing that medium style walk around, it's it's interesting, because obviously you launched the book there, didn't you? So I know Karen and Eddie have been there a couple of times, but I've never had the privilege of being able to go there. So I'm excited, to be honest.
Yeah, because you've got the outside bit as well, where obviously it's part of the old Bosworth Forest. And people have seen soldiers walking past from the Civil War era. Even Roman soldiers have been seen. So the history there is we're talking thousands of years. There's a water tower that's quite spooky. There's gardens. It's not just a hall. It's just an amazing space, and I love it. Less Bosworth and Hinckley and East Drive for me are my top three favorite locations.
And what's yours, Andy? What's your top 3?
I think East Drive's got to be in there from a point of view of what we saw. I think there's places that I still want another go at. I'd like to go back to Bodmin Jail. because we just did that as a day trip type thing. And I think by night it'll be a much different experience to what we had on the day. I've got to say, with those two that Paul's just said, I do absolutely love doing haunted antiques, because it is different every time, and because when we are back to normal, fingers crossed, we have the opportunity of doing it pretty much a couple of times a month. Everything sort of evolves and becomes quite different. But yeah, I would say Bosworth, I love it, and I think we really are still at the starting point of what that place is unraveling to us. Seeing some of the things that evolved on the night where we did some experiments, I think we need to do another night of experiments at some stage there, because there's definitely more to tell, and we've got potentially something that came out of that challenges the history of what's known about a certain event at the hall. So that's something that we've yet to find any documented proof of, but it came out on that night, and I still think there's more to it.
Okay, and where would you most like to investigate, Paul?
It sounds daft, but I've said this before. This is a location that's about 40 minutes drive from me, and I've never been. It's frightening, it's scary, really. Eam, the plague village. I would love to go there. It's on my doorstep. It's in Derbyshire, and it's something that as a kid I learned about at school. I've drove past many times, driving to Manchester and that way and everything. And I'd love to just pop in and do an investigation there. I think Haunted Admins are doing did Eam, but I'd just love to go with Haunted Live or with a few people and just experience to see if anything we pick up from a village that obviously, if you know the story, people out there, they had the plague, and rather than spreading it, they decided to sort of like lock down and not spread it to anybody else in the local area. And I'm sad to say it's on my doorstep, and I'm ashamed to say that I've not been. So, and I should be, and it's bad. So I slap myself there, you know. But
and Andy, where's the place that you'd like to go?
Well, I had the opportunity of doing the catacombs in Paris a couple of years ago, and I've also been to Stonehenge as well, which are both lovely places. But I think I'd like to see the Stanley Hotel in the US. Being a bit of a sort of King fan at that sort of the early books, that would be a good place to go to. And I'd also like to explore the house that became the Amityville Horror, because that particular photo that you see of the child at the stairs is something that kind of lives with you. I mean, it's been dismissed as fake and all this kind of stuff, but I just want to see with my own eyes that location and have a good look around it.
Yeah, and I think we've all got so many locations on bucket lists, especially over in the US, and we can't travel at the minute, can we? So
no.
It's a little bit of a nightmare, but hopefully in 2021 we can kind of get out there, and hopefully COVID will dissipate and we can, fingers crossed, and we can get together. But Paul, you're with them on Twitter. Your jokes.
What jokes? They are. I call them statements of life. They are not jokes. That's my life is a joke. I tell you that. This is look. I like to. People use social media for certain things to have a say, to have an opinion, and I use that sometimes. People use it to be nasty, to troll, constantly pointing that. I just love to tell jokes. Something comes in my head, and I just put it out there, and some people laugh, one or two, and mum and my auntie probably. But
you're having a bit of a down day, and you look at a Paul Stevenson tweet, you can guarantee that you're sat there thinking you're not right.
Yeah, that's when I turn Twitter off, really.
Yeah. No.
Your book as well. I just want to promote your book for a moment. Where can we buy your book from?
Yes, it's called 72 Minutes in the Woods. It's available from Amazon. And if I ever got my backside into gear, I'd put it on my own website. But for now, it's just on Amazon. Go and have a look. It's good.
And the magazine as well. How can people buy the magazine, Paul?
You can buy it via our website, hauntingmagazine.co.uk. We have a few stockists in America and in the UK, Haunted Antiques Research Centre. Bob in jail, I think also stocking it, hopefully. And obviously we want more stockists. So if you are a location and you are watching and you want a decent deal where you make money as well, then please contact either Andy or myself. Just search for Haunted Magazine on social media and you'll find us.
That sounds amazing. But I just want to say thank you to you both for joining me this afternoon. And up next, we've got a paranormal panel. So that's going to be interesting with Kieran O'Keefe, Tim Johnson, Laura Goth, Wayne Dean, and Jane Carrigan. So all the questions that we can kind of get asked, let's go and ask them. And Paul, I think some of your little tweets will go in hand in that panel, to be honest.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, before you go, Joe, keep where am I? There's a keep campaign against living miserably. Please donate as much as you can, whether it's £1, £2, whatever. Please donate. It's for a great cause, and let's try and get as much money as possible.
Yeah, it will be. We've done so well so far, and we never expected to get as much as we have, but we're still ongoing with it. So please, if you can, please donate. And guys, that's it from us for today. So is the paranormal panel at 1 o'clock. So thank you ever so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.